Hey, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's watching this. I don't know what visual you're seeing here, but I'm hoping that you're getting a nice visual of me and Frank. This is Frank Friedman, the CEO of IPFS. And I should say, and done. I like to say that. I know you guys have a lot of companies, but that one's so closely, directly related to what you do.
100%.
Yeah, that's right. So I always like to say Frank is I would consider him a friend. We don't sit there and hang out and go to dinner together. We have once.
We should.
We should. But Frank is somebody that I look up to, and he's somebody I look up to because ever since I heard your story, probably from Davey or Chase many years ago, I thought it was an interesting one. And I think you have some clout. And it's okay that you want to be humble because Frank, loyal listeners, that's who Frank is. But at the same time, want to get some of those experiences.
I look forward to it. It's great to see you again. It's been too long. It's been 2 years, I think, since we saw each other.
It has been.
It's good to see you again.
I think
I knew you'd come in your tennis shoes, and I feel a little guilty for having a sports shoe.
No. They're Cole Hunts. They're not tennis shoes. But no. Here's the deal. I think the last time
I'm surprised it's not Vihas, which are the in brand these days too.
That's true. That's true. I think the last time we saw each other face to face is we were in Arrowhead Stadium, and I think the Chiefs had just kicked the overtime goal. I think against it was Cincinnati.
Oh, they lost that day.
And
to go into overtime.
Yeah, to go. Yeah, it was
only to lose.
No. Well, maybe I was the wrong one then. Maybe it was the Bills. Then I can't really remember, but I know it was the one they went on to the Super Bowl and they actually won that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure. Once again, you would probably know better.
It was not the Bengals.
Okay, wasn't the Bengals. And that was a wild time. Anyways, it was a very good time. So we'll move on with this. I do appreciate that. One of the questions that I have here for you, as you know, this is here to humanize you more than it is for IPFS, but I believe the humanization of you tells us a lot about them. One of my questions, I really looked forward to asking you this. I really truly have. And we all have leaders. We all have mentors that we have followed, that have inspired us, that have brought us to who we are, that have created the Frank that I have in front of me. Who are those people, and how have they helped you relate to how you lead?
Well, that's a great question. This may come as a surprise to you, but I'm a lot older than you are. I've been around a long, long time. My story goes back 40 some odd years. And so I think, Jason, what happens is you have lots of leaders and mentors. You have lots of people over a career that you follow, some and for varying reasons, right? So when I first started, I was a young guy back then, and I was 22 or 23 years old. I screwed up on a project big time when I was with Touche Ross at that time.
Okay.
I lost a file that people had been constructing for a year. I literally put it on the trash can top, and the trash people did what they're supposed to do. They got rid of it, and it was gone. And I had to call the manager and tell him that. And he said, "Don't worry, I got your back. I'll take care of you." And that was the first mentor I've really ever had. And it showed me that, people make mistakes. And if you trust people and you can see something in somebody, you better have their back. And so that's a story that literally took place in 1980.
Wow.
Maybe 79, when I just first started out of school. And it stayed with me. So that kind of became my mentor. He was my role model for business. But then over the course of time, as my job changed and who I reported to and where I went and what I did changed as well over 40 years. People become different mentors. I had a guy who I loved to death. He was tough as nails, but he became a mentor. And he became a mentor because he may have been tough, but in the end, he was kind of like a father figure almost in some respects. And then I had one of the softest guys you'll ever meet who became a mentor back in the early 2000s. And then someone took me under their wings in like 2008, and my career at Deloitte at that time, Touche Ross merged into Deloitte. So I spent 40 years with Deloitte.
Wow.
And that fellow got me to where I was. And when he decided to leave Deloitte suddenly, he supported me to be the interim CEO. And so, it's a process. It's a ride. It moves along at differing paces, but along the way, you meet a lot of great people, and you meet just a few people. There's not a lot that will influence your career forever. Mm. And I could probably name 5 out of all the people that I've met and all the people I've known. 5. And I would also say there was one that wasn't with Deloitte, but he was a client of mine, and it resulted in one of the best transactions I've ever been a part of, because we sold his business to Berkshire Hathaway many years ago. And I went up and talked to Warren Buffett about the sale and negotiated it. And there's no negotiation, really. He just told us how much he was going to pay. But I like to think I negotiated. But he became truly, he and his wife became a second father and mother to me. And so, life takes its own twists and turns, and you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. You just kind of ride with it, and you treasure some of the moments that occur.
Listening to you say it, I can tell that I can see you in your head looking back. I can see you seeing those people and reliving those moments, and it's so awesome. One thing I want to take away from that is, I bet you if I knew all 5 of those people, sounds like 2 of them that you told me about, really had your back. That shows that, I wonder, and I bet that's probably how you lead, because you remember how important that was.
Well, I don't know if I'm as good as they are. Mm-hmm. I think it's about the moment sometimes, right? And in the moment, when people make the worst mistakes sometimes, because we're humans, people are going to make mistakes. That's when you got to be careful not to get too upset. Stay kind of calm if you can. Mm-hmm. I've always felt like when things get in the most significant crisis, or people are going, so many miles a minute because things are wrong, that's when I've always felt I calm down the most. And I learned that over a course of many, many years. When you're a young kid at 22 or 23 or 24, and you're working and things aren't going well, you're really not prone to calm down. But I think that over the course of time, maturity has a way of helping all of us. And I think as a consequence, you kind of learn how to treat people a little bit better, and you try to, put yourselves in their positions. But the one thing I always know is that we are just humans.
Yeah.
And as humans, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's
fantastic.
Kind of how I managed.
Frank, don't move. Okay. Just want to do a check. Just make sure don't move, Frank. I said we're going to go right on to the next question, but I just want to make sure. Just doing a little check. Okay. I'm a paranoid person. When I'm using your time, I want to make sure that I'm doing it right.
Okay? Come across okay?
Yeah. Everything. And I just wanted to make sure they're all running. That's what's the important part. The last thing I'm going to do is waste your time. Okay. So now, Frank, when it comes to industry trends, you have to admit that. Now, actually, I'm not going to admit. I want you to know, would you think that this is one of the most challenging times for businesses? You worked with Deloitte. You were CFO, if I remember, and then you went to CEO. Tell me if I'm wrong about that. Is that right?
Yeah, I tell people, and this is true, I had a wonderful, magical career. I went to school at the University of Kansas, and, I started as an auditor back in 1979, kind of across the downtown here in Kansas City. And I spent like a year in auditing, and my clients were the happiest to see me go someplace else, because I was really, really a bad auditor. And then I grew up kind of on the tax side of the business. And then I got into administration, became CFO, became the interim CEO. And then I finished my 40 years as the global chief operating officer. But I traveled a boatload. I traveled 40, 45 weeks a year for 20 years. And I'd go to Hong Kong for a day. I'd leave on a Saturday, and I'd get back on a Monday. I mean, I'd go, the best one is when I would go to Seoul in the morning for breakfast and Hong Kong for dinner. And it was a crazy life. I enjoyed every minute of it, and I had an incredible support system with my wife, and who really raised our two kids, and really how good the kids turned out is a testament more to her than it ever will be to me.
That's right. That's right. Now, having that history, being across the world, Seoul in the morning, Hong Kong at night, you've seen business inside and out. You saw businesses, you were probably auditing a lot of them. Now you went up and you've dealt with businesses of the small to the middle to the large. When we talk about the world we're living in right now, and from a technology standpoint, would you say this is the most challenging? This is the most high-paced change, or have we seen this before? And those who are maybe my age don't know.
Well, I would say in the late '90s with the dot-com bubble, the dot-coms, and it was pretty high-paced then. The difference between then and now is then was what I used to call the battle of the press release. And so companies were saying, we're going to do this and we've done this and, blah, blah, blah. And it was more press releases than it was substantive.
Gotcha.
Now, I think what you really see is pretty substantive stuff. And so when you see Chat GPT get off and it's booming, or you see OpenAI, or you see DeepSeek, and you see the companies who have responded to DeepSeek saying, this is real stuff. This is actually pretty real stuff. It's much more real. It's much more tangible. It works more. And that's why you don't see a tremendous amount of companies going out of business like you did right after the 90s into the early 2000s, because those companies who issued press releases to talk about how good they were didn't have substance. Now you do. And,
wow, that's an interesting perspective.
But there's no question, I used to work, this is so embarrassing, but I used to work when you had a pad of paper and a pencil and a pen, and you would write it down, you'd give it to your assistant or somebody. You wouldn't scan it. There's no such thing as scanning. You would put it into a folder. You hope the folder got filed correctly. And so clearly the migration of technology, which started, I think, with kind of like email, and people had a tough time adapting to email. And then, I had one of the first phones in my car that hooked up to the console in the car. And they were, fairly big.
Yeah,
fairly big. I felt so cool. And then before you know it, Apple came out with their phone in 2008 or 9, and the world changed. And so I think the pace of change and the money that's going into technology has really made a difference. I think that the PE companies, the private equity firms, and the amount of money they have to invest, and the amount of funds they have, and the performance they have to perform to get their next fund, has made a tremendous difference on the pace of how things get done right now. And so, whereas we had technology, starting like in the 2000s, it's the pace of change is quite more significant today than it was back then.
And everybody needs money, especially these technology companies, to keep going on. I love your substance thing. That is a great understanding of maybe the difference between that .com and where we are here. Makes total sense. It really truly does. But there's an advantage that IPFS has, because as you're trying to meet your customer in these innovative times, you're able to directly say, hey, you guys don't need a PE company. You're going to say, hey, we can use some of our funds we already have, listen to our customers, and realize that premium financing, as I explained to agents, is nothing more than a form of payment. That's what it is. So now the consumer have said, we want this over here, the digital, and it was you guys to see that. And I think knowing this substance and this history, how was that creating Andon?
Well, to your point, premium financing has always been looked upon as a way to help agents sell business, right? Because some people don't have the cash to pay it all up front, and so they need a financing mechanism. And so the premium financing companies, and by the way, I didn't know much about premium financing companies until I arrived here in late 19, but the premium financing companies offer that alternative for people. In fact, just as a side note, at IPFS, I think about 85% of our loans are for premiums of $25,000 or less. And so we're really helping the small business community, right? Middle market, small business, Now, our dollars are skewed the other way, for
Makes
sure.
sense. Right.
But the amount of loans we do is really skewed towards small business. So I think we believe we're helping small businesses. But in the end, premium finance companies is just a payment methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you pay through financing or whether you pay in full, it's just how you elected to pay. And so we thought, I got here in 19, in 20 or 21, we approved, we built some business cases about establishing a payment company, which became Andon. And we thought it was just another extension of how we can take what we know really, really well, premium financing, and just extend it to pay in fulls and become a one-stop shop for being able to collect money from the insured, help the agent and the agency so they don't have to collect everything anymore.
Yeah.
They're not responsible for collecting it. We collect it, we remit it to whoever we're supposed to remit it to, whether it's back to the agency or back to the carrier. And we can do it all in one fell swoop. And it was just a natural extension of that. And today, Andon is probably, I think we ran $13-14 billion through that platform last year.
Yeah. And
thousands of merchants on it. Thousands, literally. And we're going to continue to grow that company because we think it's part and parcel of what we do. And it is absolutely a critical strategy.
Whenever I came to you for Indie Tech, and I came to Chase and I came to you directly, and I told you about my plan for Indie Tech because we believe in the independent insurance agent and the technology, you were really quick to step up and be able to say, after I presented my material and I had to let you know everything about it, I was very happy that you came back and decided, and you still are. IPFS and Andon is our number one sponsor. And it's not number one like, hey, we got a couple others. Like, you guys have really, really stepped up, and that just shows that.
I'm glad we are. Yeah. I'm thrilled we are.
Thank you.
I mean,
appreciate it.
I think being associated with you, because, it's interesting to be associated with a company or a conference, but really what you do as a CEO, you say, do I want to be associated with the person? Mm-hmm. So being associated with you is an honor, and we enjoy our relationship with you and the conferences you have, and awesome. I look forward to it continuing.
Thank you. And I promise to keep making you happy.
Okay, great.
If you could spend one evening with any kind of historical figure, having dinner, living or deceased, who would that be and why? And why does that resonate with your person? Does this resonate with you professionally or personally?
So I would say I love history.
Oh, yeah.
I love history. And I am a reader of what interests me in history. So I'm a big reader of World War II. I've gotten into Vietnam books. I've gotten into Native Americans and see what happened to them in the country. Mm-hmm. I just like to understand history. And I'm a big reader of presidents also. So I think if I had can I mention a couple three?
Please. Yes.
One will be a surprise president. John Adams. I think Alexander Hamilton. The people who formed this country and had the foresight of how to form this country, not knowing how this country would ever take off, right, would be fascinating to sit down and say, so Alex, how did you come up with the idea of a central federal bank? Or John, I know, by the way, John Adams was not liked by a lot of people, but he was pretty significant and important. What made you think of this in the Constitution? Thinking so far out, it would be fascinating for me to do that. Harry Truman comes to mind, maybe because he grew up down the road over here, but just kind of an unknown who catapulted himself to greatness through what he did around World War II, and unfortunately having to make some decisions that he had to make in the broader picture of saving lives. I mean, it would be fascinating to talk to him. He was a no-nonsense guy. He played cards, 3 blocks away, but he lived in Kansas City every day at lunch. And it would be fascinating to talk to him. And the final one.
It's going to shut down. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Go ahead. These are good.
The final one, the best book I've ever read was a book called Undaunted Courage. Don't know if you ever heard of it, ever read it. It was about Lewis and Clark and their inaugural trip to get over to the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
And it was written by Stephen Ambrose, who was a World War II guy, has a museum named after him in New Orleans, the World War II Museum. And Ambrose did a great job. I'd love to sit down with Lewis and/or Clark and say, tell me the real story of how you got across and all the things you had to go through, disease, Indian, Native Americans, just some friendly, some not friendly. I get the ones that aren't friendly. You're competing on their territory, by the way. Mm-hmm. And just tell me what it was like.
They say the prairie grass was like 12 to 15 foot tall and thick, and they had to get through this, just one of the things.
And they had to go on the Missouri River, which starts out towards Oregon, I think, and kind of maneuvers its way back over here. And there were, at that time, 60 million buffalo roaming around here.
Wow.
You don't see many left.
No.
If you look out this window, there's not a lot of buffalo.
No, there's not. I was looking the other day, Frank. No, there's not. And they are starting to come back, but you're right. We devastated it back in the, what would you say, late 1800s, early 1900s out there. War is a big thing with you. War, leadership, trying to make decisions in really rough times. I think that's what a lot of it is. I want to ask you, I've read before, I think it was John Rohn that said that Jim Rohn said that it's not ironic that the average house that's over $1 million in value, now this was back in the 80s and 90s, he says most have libraries in them. He said that the average person, there's less than 1% of people in America have a library card. Once again, that was back in the 80s and 90s, but it's probably still true if it was today. The average person will read anywhere between 3 to 5 books in their lifetime, where the average CEO will read 20 to 30, and most of the time they're reading more than one at one time. In your life, would you say that you're that avid of a reader?
20 to 30.
A year?
A year? No, that's probably more than I read. But in fairness, you get kind of in a groove where you start to read several, and you might have a couple going, and one you just dismiss.
That's exactly right.
And one's kind of a fun book; it's a fiction book, right? Mm-hmm. James Patterson, whatever you like, David Baldacci, whatever you want to read. And the rest for me are nonfiction books.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good to know.
So we actually I started a lunch and learn session with me at the company for our associates, where we invite like 15 associates a month just to get to know each other better.
Okay.
Because we're so spread out in 30 different cities across North America that I thought, well, they can't get together with each other. So we get together, and we always seem to talk about books we've read. And so we're starting a book club in the company, just to talk about good books and things you might want to read and what people suggest to read.
So I appreciate you allowing me to veer off topic, but I think we're staying with something you're obviously comfortable with reading. Can you, off the top of your head, what was probably the best book you've read in the last year, 2 years, 3 years?
That's a great question. Well, I read about Elizabeth Holmes. What was her company out on the West Coast? One that did the pinprick for blood, and then she eventually went to jail.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just can't remember the company's name. But just stories of people like that come to mind. Come to mind like that.
Wow. Yeah. See, that is amazing, because I haven't read her. Let's watched a couple documentaries on that. I have not read the book, and oh my gosh, that's unbelievable.
It is. And great and really important people. The former Secretary of State on her board. And then one kid basically said, "This is not going well. This doesn't sound kosher." Wow. And it kind of turned everything upside down. I
truly believe, Frank, that people in those situations do not intend on it. I believe a lot of them have the best intentions, but whenever they start taking money, they start seeing a little success, they brag about it too much. There comes this tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell talks about in The Tipping Point, great book that I just read last year. There comes a point in time where you're on the other side of it now.
I think you're right.
And
I think you're right. I think you're right. You get too self-absorbed and sometimes your importance.
Yeah.
Right? You tend to forget that you should have a little humility and you should kind of tell the truth, because if you tell enough lies, you may believe them and others may believe them, but at some point in time it catches up.
Thank you. Love that. Where do you see the insurance premium financing marketing heading in the next 5 to 10 years? And how does IPFS plan to position as a leader in that future?
We will always be the leader, we believe. I think it's going to become, listen, I think that consolidation will continue. But we bought, in the last 25 years, Jason, I bet we bought 25 different companies. And so we say, well, is there anyone else to buy? And I said, boy, we bought 25, we hurt ourselves. But I think there'll continue to be consolidation. We're still an acquirer. We're not going to back away from acquisitions if it makes sense to us, and we'll always listen to anything. So consolidation will occur. I think technology will become ever growing. Here's the benefit that we have that I tell our people all the time. Most of my competitors are owned by banks. Not all, but most competitors are owned by banks. We're not. We're owned by a private enterprise. So when we say we're going to put money in technology, I'm not competing against a bank for resources.
That's a good point.
And the others are legitimately so, because there are different needs of a bank that has a premium finance company. And so I think technology is going to become increasingly important. Integrations already are important. That will continue. It's probably gone a little slower than I really like. Part of it is we need to get the attention of the big agency management systems to cooperate a little bit more with us. They're heading that direction for us, and we love them dearly, but I wish they'd go faster.
I understand.
But I think technology will continue. Consolidation will continue. I think in the end, service differentiates also. And we believe we can compete with anybody in service and win every time. And so for us, over the next few years, we're going to put more attention on how you service somebody, how you bring and how you utilize technology. So we're implementing artificial intelligence in some of our areas right now.
Okay.
So that we don't have to do things as much manually. We're rewriting some of our internal systems so as to do much more things automated. My goal is that we automate absolutely everything we do. Now, I know that's a tall task, and sometimes you can't. But if you don't have that view, you'll never get there. So we want to be so I think we are going to do it, and I guarantee you the competitors are going to do it too. They're going to continue to automate. They're going to continue to put technology in. Payments are going to become a bigger source of volume and revenue for sure. And there's going to be some of our clients who say, I still want a premium finance, but I want some payments. And there'll be payment companies say, I really want to just do your payment. That will eventually morph into premium financing. So I think it's going to be about consolidation and technology.
You know, AI is a very fascinating thing. It's the number one talk, and it's in every industry, in every home, in every business. That's how unbelievable this really, truly is. And when we talk about if we could automate everything, I think a lot of people, and I want to get your opinion on this, I think a lot of people will estimate that a company of 1,000 people will go to 250. And I challenge that. I believe that obviously there will be some efficiency, some cutback, because there's probably jobs we just shouldn't have humans doing altogether, right? Yeah. I believe also in 1920 there was no such thing as a masseuse.
Right.
But today there's that job. I believe that there's a lot of jobs that were not there in history that are here now. Some created just in the last couple of years due to technology. I remember in the 1990s, I was scared as a high schooler that I was going to go out to work and technology would have all of our jobs. But yet here we are, and we don't have enough people to fill the jobs we have. What is your thought on that, and how do you see AI affecting our workforce?
So my first takeaway from your question is you were a high schooler in the 1990s, which is really embarrassing for you. The second to answer the question, for years I've heard how technology is going to make us more efficient and effective. It does make us more effective. But I would dare say, even with all the technology, you don't see massive layoffs. You don't see changes. When we put in email, you didn't see massive reductions in headcount because you figured out how to use people a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
And
well said.
And I think that's going to continue. So we'll use AI, and I'm sure there'll be some resource issues, but it's not going to be massive.
I agree.
I just don't believe it will. And I've heard that for years and years and years how it should be. And for years and years and years, the reality is it's not. And so I think you'll continue to see that. And to your point, yeah, in the 20s when you're on a horse, no one thought about what's going to happen when the cars got put in. And so something always tended to take the place to fill it up, and it's going to continue that way. But I don't see artificial intelligence completely wiping out a workforce. And to your example, going from 1,000 to 250, not going to happen.
I agree. Thank you very much. That reaffirms what I believe as well. From reading,
hopefully, we're both right.
Yeah, what they say, reading the tea leaves. I don't really understand that, but I guess there's some reason to it. Here's what I want to last question here: defining moments. Okay, tell me about that. What's a defining moment or decision in your life that significantly into the person you are today as a leader? You've told me a lot about it. I think I've got a much clearer picture of who you think and what you appreciate in the world. But what's that defining moment for you, Frank?
Well, I told you one where I got rid of all the stuff. And so I still remember that, literally 45 years later.
I bet, Frank.
Literally. And it saved it saved me at least a tooth for sure. So I would say that was kind of a business defining moment, but there's no one moment that I can say this defined my career more than anything else. I think what defines your career is yourself. I think how hard you work, who you work with, do you gain the trust of others? Do people appreciate what you're doing and respect what you're doing? I think those are ultimately the defining moments of a career, because then people bring you along, they support you, they promote you, they respect you. And I think those are defining moments. I mean, certainly when you get to a personal side, there's other defining moments, marriage, kids, etc. And I'll tell you one defining moment for me as well, as I was in New York City on 9/11. And it was an incredible experience. I mean, if you felt safe at all, New York City was the place to be. And by the end of the week of a very tumultuous, fearful week where you had B-52s or whatever the bombers were flying over New York City all the time. At the end of that week, I remember walking out, Jason, and people were standing outside the bars and the restaurants, and they were singing the national anthem. Extraordinary. It was extraordinary. And it has always stayed with me. That when times of crisis, set aside political differences, which seems to have divided us significantly in the last many years. You set aside those, and you come together as a people. And that's, I think, what differentiates us from other countries and throughout the world.
Wow. I'm going to end with that. I think that was fantastic. Frank, I definitely want to, on behalf of the industry, I really want to thank you. I really want to do this.
Thank you.
You epitomize exactly what I want to do here with the executive sessions. I've learned a lot about you. I really, truly have. And I know that the industry has. And if they want to reach out to you, you have an assistant. I know we're not going to give that information, but I'm pretty sure you can find Frank out there on LinkedIn, I assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can always find Frank out on LinkedIn. And once again, I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Loyal listeners, you know what I do. I do it for you. Thank you for your thoughts, and tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell you what the world has to say. Thank you very much. This is Jason Cass, and he's Frank Friedman.